This is a really short intro for those of you who are interested in the Bubble project. I am just about to upload some video from earlier in the year when I did finally get this thing running nicely. Oh yeah, did I even mention them? Bonnet struts. It is all together. I had a problem with one of the fans which doesn't want to fit nicely, which I'm going to have to address. Temp sensor in here for them, little fan relay and switchy thing there, but alarm might go off, apologies neighbours. Store card's still not on. Come on, right, that should be the immobiliser off. Fingers crossed, it's just a runner. It's a bit damp again because basically it's still not got an interior, well, much of it in the boot. Noisy tappet to start with. That wasn't there the other day. Yeah, it doesn't like to idle too well. I think I've got an air leak. But yeah, it does run, drive, is insured, just doesn't have an MOT yet. But I'll upload some of the other footage that I had from earlier on in the year, and hopefully you'll be satisfied by that update. Not sure what you last saw or what I was up to, but I've been shopping since the last video. That's a pair of speakers to go in the rear. When I used to have one of these, I fitted 6x9s in the rear shelf, which sounded great, but I don't really want to chop up my parcel shelf, so these ones are 13 centimeters and will fit in the original apertures either side of the parcel shelf. That is a pair of washer pumps. They're actually off a Freelander, but I think they're near as damn it the same, and they're like £3 each posted, which was a bargain. That is some new pipe for the rear washer because that doesn't work at the moment. It's all blocked up. The washer motor itself doesn't work, and I don't mean the pump, I mean the actual wiper on motor unit. So I've got one coming. That's unrelated, that's for another car. Scuttle clips. When I was fixing the wiper linkage, I realised some of these clips had basically, well, they'd gone so brittle they'd fractured up and don't work. So those are replacements for those. Those are bolts for the rear bumper, I think. What was that? That was something else. Blah 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 blah. Stupid nuts, bolts, fixings, things that cost money that you forget about, and were missing from the car when I got it. Sweets. I got given sweets for free. Wheel bolts, new wheel bolts. And then we have here, you might have seen this on Furious Driving's channel, but on these you don't have gas rams for the bonnet, you just have a rod. So that is the gas ram kit, so that'll improve things somewhat. Anyway, less chat, more do. I'm going to go start fitting some of this stuff to the car. Right, both washer pumps work. I am remaking bits of the hose system. The hose from the pump area up through the engine bay was really crappy looking, so that's replaced with nice new clear stuff. Then I blew through the section that goes through the cabin, and that works. It comes out over here. So I've got that emptying into a bucket, clean washer fluid. I'm just going to blow that through repeatedly using the motor, try and flush out the dregs that's in between before I then reinstate that to the motor. That worked pretty well. There's no obvious issues anymore. There is a lot of crap and sediment that's come through. I don't know whether that'll focus properly. You can kind of see it floating around in there. So that's good. So now I can, come on, focus. Then I can restate this last little bit through the tailgate, which comes out there, and you can see how something's gone wrong with my camera focusing, but yeah, that should be clear. It's full of crap, so I'll sellotape a new length of hose onto there, pull it through the tailgate, saving me the hassle of trying to route it manually. You can see the level of care that Rover went to building these little cars. This was when they really wanted to improve quality. That is a piece of foam routed all the way through the tailgate down here that would have prevented rattles, presumably. So I'm going to try and get that back in there once I've got the new pipe through. It's all a bit of a palaver, but I've now taken the foamy rubber stuff off the old length, put it on that length, and then started feeding it through as I pull the new cable or hose through. So ultimately we'll end up with a nice new piece of hose in the original rubber. Then I can cable tie the ends so it won't shift up and down, and we are done. I forgot that I bought a new K&N filter for down there. When I got the car, what did it have? I think it might have just had a cone. I can't even remember now, such a long time ago. The car originally would have had an air box in here under where that pipe goes. Deleted that. One minor issue is that this breather should have returned to the airbox. It now doesn't, so I need to either cap it off or route it to a vent tank, which I'll mount somewhere. I could actually use the bracket for the carbon canister, but I'll worry about that another time. It doesn't really affect me shunting it around the driveway. So what else am I doing? I'll go and fit the rear speakers now. Something nice and easy, hopefully. I might have to make up some speaker wires, but other than that, it should be straightforward. Annoyingly, these come with the conventional aftermarket, one large, one small terminal. The original Rover, two big terminals. So although it'll fit, it's not right. So I'm going to go and get some correct crimps, chop those off, put the new ones on. Right, I've removed the scuttle panel again because these are all of the clips which should be holding it down, and the plastic has just gone brittle and split on each and every single one of them. So it's able to slide backwards and forwards and the screws don't do anything, which is why I bought these new ones to go in their place. It's a stupid detail. It's something I'm having to do again because I made it a shortcut the last time, but you know, it'll get done. This old plastic is so unbelievably brittle. You just touch it and it fires apart. It's just horrible stuff. It's not like the normal, well, I think it's nylon they usually use. This is not very nice stuff at all. But the new ones, hopefully, yeah, much more bendy. Good. This is one of those jobs that I really couldn't be bothered to do, but it's so satisfying because where this used to be flapping around because it wasn't retained properly and the seal wasn't pressed against the windscreen properly, now it's all fitting lovely. So yeah, good. Well, that's annoying. In the kit it tells you don't fit the washers under the ball end on the front wings on the 200, which I haven't done. But even not doing that, it hits the bonnet both sides, which means when you close the bonnet, it sits proud. That used to be a really nice panel gap. Now it won't go down enough, it just looks completely retarded. So either I need to make a smaller ball end or set the ball end lower, or I have to take a chunk out the bonnet, or just go back to standard. Really annoying. I'll have to talk to Matt and see if he had this problem, and if he did, how he got around it, because at the moment that's just really stupid. Very annoying. Just been looking at this again. I can well understand why they say in the kit don't put a washer under there, and I never have done, but it still impacts the bonnet here. You can see the impression mark. So if you watch there, that dent, just see it, contacts the top of the ball joint down there. So even if you push the bonnet down at the front and lock it, the whole bonnet's bowing out around that point, both sides. Not ideal. At the moment, I can't really think of how to fix that other than this is some sort of stainless, so I could radius this smaller to see if I get enough clearance, but I don't think that's going to work. Or I set all of this lower, but how you do that without chopping, welding that, and then how you fix it, I don't know. Or I do get some sort of hammer action on there, but that's just stupid. Ah. Car has just been hosed down, looks pretty good. I need to first off finish bottoming out and clipping up all the wiring, then all the boot trim can go back in. This bit of wiring loom, which has clearly been repaired in the past, and where I thought I had that problem, that needs taping up, then that can go back together again. Then really most of the back can go together. There's things like changing the rear shocks to coilovers, other bits and pieces like tidying up the rear bumper and the front bumper. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just trying to get this thing in and through an MOT as soon as possible so that I can actually get it on the road, because it's kind of killing me that this project is taking me so long. Then I can concentrate on the diesel again, which I'm sure lots of you are crying out to see. So plan of today, tick off the boot area, jack up the front, start doing the front ABS sensors, stuff like that. Can't believe this. It's actually 24 hours later than the last bit of video I did. Just got the car in the air and it started raining, which it wasn't meant to do for another couple of hours, but I'm going to persevere and start figuring out what I'm doing with the ABS sensors. First thing I might do is plug them in and see if it turns the warning light off on the dash. On the left we have two brand new ABS sensors. They are brand new. They have collected a bit of rust from my workshop, but that is just because they're magnetic. And then over here we have the two old ones. Straight away I'm realising that the pickup is a different shape, but that shouldn't matter so long as the body is the same length, which it appears to be. Well, very close anyway. But to start with, I'm just going to plug the old ones back in, because they still have their original bracketry, which if that is still working would be a much easier solution, and then I wouldn't have to smash the old ones out of the aluminium carriers. Right, they are both plugged in. I have noticed one of them, I remember now why it was I thought I needed to buy new ones. One of them has got a great big abrasion through the outer. It's just through the shielding, not the actual conductor inside. But yeah, they're plugged in. We shall switch the ignition, see what it does. If I can, what have I done with the key? Oh, there's the key. This is a live test. I haven't done this off camera. What would be nice is if the ABS light lights up, which is that one down there, and goes off again when the ignition's turned. Fingers crossed. Maybe it's like on. And that's a no. Right, so I'll plug the new ones in, see if it's any different. If not, I'll start messing around with the multimeter. We have success. Basically, the front left sensor was the one that had the worn and abraded outer. So the the offside one is still the old one. Near side is the new one, plugged in. Light goes off. So that's what the problem was. Now I just need to try and fit that kiddie into that housing. First off, making sure that it is in fact the right length, because although it's close, I'm not sure it's 100% the right part, which will be annoying because they're from Rimmer Brothers. So why would I expect it to be a straight fit? I think it might be the right length, it's just that the body shape is different. So we have to get this plastic barrel thing out of the aluminium casting, and from memory and experience, these never come out easily. So I'll undo the bolt, and then I'll probably just go through it with a drill, breaking it up and pulling it out in pieces. Then I'll strip it out of the metal carrier thing, and we can start trying to put it back together on the car. I might need to modify this bracket somewhat, because it's designed to go with the original mk3 strut, whereas now I've got the coilover, so this lower part may not work. This bit up here probably will, but it's a bit bent on this one. Don't know what happened there, but yeah, some messing around needed. Midway through butchery, I snapped the back of it off there we go. Now I'm just going to start drilling through, trying not to pick up too much on the alley housing. Hopefully you can just get the guts out without damaging anything else. Then the new one can go in, and then that's all good. In fact, the thing I was most worried about was getting the that bolt out of there, because that can also seize and snap off, and then that's rather more problematic. Whereas drilling out the old knackered sensor isn't really a big deal. Getting through these is quite annoying, because there's all sorts of stuff in there that doesn't like to be drilled, like bits of weird plastic and copper and stuff that the drill wants to deflect off. But when you get into it, it's quite satisfying. I think we got there. That came out quite clean actually. The shoulders aren't kind of stuck to the inside of the bore, so that's very good. Just a little bit of a clean over with a wire wheel, and that's good to go again. Yeah, okay, that's the sensor in the housing, bolted back in. That goes on the hub somewhere, we'll work that out in a minute. The wires come through that hole there, that plug, and then originally this bracketry would have gone on something in here somewhere. It would have come down and be clamped either side of here on the original mk3 strut, probably on these tabs here, I don't know, and then would it work its way back there. This tin work on both of mine is so crappy that I'm not going to keep it. I'm going to make up some other sort of brackets, I think. I don't know. I'm just going to start mocking up where I need things and then work it out afterwards. I hate buying parts from suppliers who say it's the right part and then it turns out not to be. Basically, if you hold this sensor up onto its mounts on here, doesn't fit, it hits the teeth of the reluctor ring. So either that sensor is not the wrong one and it's too long, or the teeth on the ring are too long. I can space this out somewhat to reduce the clearance, but I need to check what clearance I need. So I'm going to fit the good one to the other side of the car, measure the clearance, and then modify this one to suit and hope it works. Slowly going mad. It turns out the problem is not with the sensors. If I put the original sensor and bolt it hard up, oh sorry, no, that's not an original, that's a pattern part one. The original is on the other side. But anyway, if I bolt the original one to the hub, which you can see down there, if I bolt that flush, the tip of the ABS sensor is actually touching the reluctor ring. None of that assembly has changed. This part has always gone with that sensor, never been separated, always been bolted to this hub. So the actual teeth on the tips of the reluctor ring on the CV boot, also CV joint, are too long. The air gap between, well, that's the first thing to say, there should be a gap between the pickup for the ABS sensor and the ring, and it's usually about a little less than 1/2 mil. So that should definitely not be touching the ring. because it'll just permanently count, or it'll just get wrecked basically. That's the first thing, and it may not even read speeds even if it didn't get wrecked. So I've got two options. One is space the put washers between the underside of the mounting bracket and the hub, there and there, sand that down, or sand all of the teeth of the CV joint down. I presume that is just a metallic conductor, and you probably can sand it and it'll probably be okay. I don't have any washers, and I can't think of where I can get any washers that are sufficiently thin to space it out by a gnat's cock in order to achieve the correct air gap. This original sensor you probably can sand down. The other new ones though are embedded in plastic. So even if I could sand it down, am I just going to be opening up the guts of the thing to the elements? So I'm going to stop work now, go and do some reading, and then come back. Right, I am going to do a little bit of bodgery. The original one, I am just going to file down the end of that conductor. When I smashed the other one apart, that was just a solid piece of steel. So quite frankly, the length of it, if I reduce that, won't make a difference. The other one, the aftermarket one, it was quite an effort to fit the sensor into that housing. There's a lot of friction between the plastic body and the aluminium. So what I'm going to do is undo the nut again and then tap this back into the body and then just nip the nut up slightly. There's no way that's going to move because it just sits bolted on the hub, and hopefully that will prevent me from having to monster the end of that sensor so it stays weather tight, and we should end up with working ABS. The other thing is I do have very, very fine slithers of old spring steel, which if I need to I can put between the alley body and the underside of that steel for the sensor to also act as a spacer. So hopefully within a jiffy we will be, although it won't be mounted properly in terms of the wiring guides, we'll actually have sensors bolted to the car. I can run it up and down the driveway and see if the light stays off. It's the Monaco Grand Prix today. It's all getting rather interesting, and I wish I had Sky TV to watch it, but I don't. Right, so I've got myself a file, a good one, feeder gauges. That's Leclerc getting very angry because they've double stacked a pit stop. Now we've got, right, that's the one I want. That's about 10 thou or 1/4 millimeter. So I'm going to keep bolting the sensor housing up into the hub, taking a little bit of a time until I get that kind of air gap between the sensor and the reluctor ring. I shouldn't have to be doing any of this. It's just a mismatch of parts again that is screwing me over. I'm very, very slowly filing my way, rechecking, filing, rechecking. I've got clearance now, but apologies for the terrible camera work. Come on. So that's the sensor. There's a gap, but I still can't get a feeler gauge through it. Not even a very, very small one. So a little bit more filing to do. Okay. We have a gap of just about 0.1. There we go. So that is 10 thou, or about 1/4 millimeter. So this side's done. Now we're going to have to fiddle around with the other side, taking the thing apart and putting it back together again. Spitfire is out again. I'd love to do that. Incidentally, I did Google how much it was going to cost to get a flight in a Spitfire. 3.5 grand. Yeah, okay. That is one side done. All of the metal is clipped up around here. Bolts there. Bolt there for the other one, which runs off that way. Brake line nice and secured through there, can still move. This one goes up, through that, into the car and terminates. The only thing that's a bit council is there's still a bracket hanging off here, which originally would have been bolted to the strut, and that's no longer here on the McPherson strut that I'm using because it's the leader coilovers. But it's not going anywhere, it just looks a bit gammy. So on this side, I've just loosened that bolt and opened up the gap between the housing and the sensor. I'll try or fit this, measure the air gap and tap this back until I get the correct air gap, unbolt it, and then I might do something as council as drip some araldite in there, because that'll lock it, it'll stop it moving, and the air gap can then be adjusted again by fracturing off the araldite. Right, that's the 10 thou 1/4 millimeter feeler gauge. I've bolted the sensor in. I've loosened that bolt there, so I do have a gap between here and here, and if I feel with the feeler gauge, the gap is quite baggy at the moment. So if I progressively tighten this one, I can close it up and then try again. So a bit of a slowly catchy monkey affair, but it is working. Let me put this in the Haynes manual. Yeah, so that's pretty good. That feels good. I'll try and lock it in that position. Just realised one of the wire guides, it's missing its tab, so I need to weld a little washer on so I can bolt this to the hub. So I'll clean that up, weld it on, bit of paint, job's a good one. I don't know what's going on today, but that guy has just done a loop-the-loop. Doesn't even look like a stunt plane. Just literally did a backward roll. What am I doing? I'm not flying planes. I'm about to weld that washer there. Is he doing it again? Oh, what's he up to? He's just done a barrel roll thing. Welded. I'll grind that smooth, paint it black, it can go on the car. It's alright in there. So I think that's largely ABS done. Happy with that. Just done a little forwards and backwards shunt, and although I can't get it up to about 20 miles an hour, which I think it needs in order to read faults, it does appear to be working. So I can't actually think of anything else it needs in order for an MOT other than refitting the washer jet hose, the horns, front bumper, and that's it. So hopefully in the not too distant future it will be road legal. It struck me that there really isn't very much else to do to get this ready for an MOT. I've just been putting the rear interior panels back in. That's a brand new spare wheel kit for a Rover 200 BRM, and the spare wheel thing, so that can sit ready till I get my spare sorted. Parcel shelf is in. All of this stuff needs a clean, I just haven't done it yet. Just found that T-piece which I've been looking for a while, so now I can do my headlamp washer jets. I have also found my new wheel stud nuts, sorry, the trims for the sills, they can go in, the plates that hold the front bumper to the front wings so the front bumper can go on, and generally I'm tidying things up. I still haven't wired the fans in. I need to buy a fan controller, fit that in there probably. I need to buy a battery mounting or locking plate, and that's about it. Interior wise, everything I need for an MOT is there. I'm not putting the door cards in yet because of reasons. I have fitted the trim clips I was missing, bought them. They're actually off an MGF, but they fit. I need to take that seat out again to mount the CD auto changer, but that shouldn't be too problematic. I also have something I'm rather pleased with. When I went to the Pride of Longbridge, there was a lad there selling new old stock and second-hand floor mats. So I managed to buy brand new original Rover 200 floor mats for the car, which, you know, just makes it look a little bit more original, so that's good. So I shall now continue my fettling. Not much to record really, I'll just sort of show you the results of the front of the car back together afterwards, hopefully. Just made some final adjustments to the bonnet latch, so now that works perfect and it aligns nicely with the wings. Headlights I'm probably going to move a bit, and this whole frame across the front which supports the bumper is yet to be adjusted. That stud hole there should line up with the front bumper here. Incidentally, I've taken the BRM grille off for the moment because that all needs to be repainted, but the fog lights will stay in there just for MOT purposes. Yeah, so I'm going to offer that up, fasten where it touches, and then start adjusting things, try and get it all looking nice and aligned. These headlights, they're quite aligned with the bonnet, but you never really know what they're going to do when they're with the bumper. You can see this one wants to come down a bit here, so we'll have to find a way of doing that so we get that like angry little scowl, symmetric and not squint. That's about as good as I can get it at the minute. That headlight still wants to come down a touch just on the inside. That one, the whole thing wants to come up. At the moment the bumper support bar isn't even bolted in properly. I forgot I couldn't get to it until after the bumper's on, but for MOT purposes I just don't care. So that's going to stay like that for the moment, and what I'll do is when I take that front bumper off again, I'll try and take the fog lights out first, then I can do up the bumper support mount in rough position, twist the whole front of the car down that side and up this side, lock it down, then when I put the bumper back on it should be okay. But lines up pretty well. The wings, overall pretty happy considering how much I've chopped that bumper apart and how much these wings and everything have been apart as well. I need to go and get some wheels and tyres. Really, they need to come off the Turbo 420, and at the moment this still has a decap pipe in it, whereas really for the MOT I should probably hike that out and put a sports cat in it. Just hope that that gets me through the emissions. The front number plate covers that front bolt for the bumper, so rather than sticky back plastic, these are going to have to be, or this one's going to have to be screwed on. So I've been raiding my drawer of bits and pieces. Now drill holes in this, screw it to the front of the car. Once more, Spitfire. By bird. Really feels like I'm on the home straight now. I've just fitted some of the trims. I've done this in a temporary fashion. Basically I've got all new clips to hold that on nice and tight, but I don't want to use them because that's got to come off again anyway, so I don't want to waste the clips because they're quite expensive. Now I am removing the old auto changer to refit the new one, and I'll work out the easiest way of getting the auto changer cable up through the center console. It's probably going to be just to go through that hole, follow the SRS warning light for the pre-tensioner, and then go up through here, and hopefully I don't have to take the center armrest out again because that's a bit of a fiddle. So far my cunning plan is working. Phillips auto changer installed under here, nice and neat on the original brackets. Wire goes through here. I've just poked it up through the center console. It can come through here and then into the back of the stereo. Okay, I feel super mean. That is all a little creature nest from inside my dashboard. He was living in there. No creature in there at the moment, and all of this looks very old, so hopefully he's long gone, but I've evicted someone. I feel bad. Probably shouldn't be doing this right now because it's late in the day. I've had a can of Strongbow and this is a fiddly, delicate job. That is the clock unit. Oh, cock. This is exactly the reason why I should be doing things like this. Now, well, that was the clock. It's the multifunction clock, which means that it also talks to the stereo. I mean, it doesn't talk to the stereo, it just repeats what channel you're on, which buttons you've pressed, all that kind of crap. The LCD screen works apart from a couple of cells at the right side, and then the backlight illumination. The bulb works intermittently, but it won't stay on. So the reason I took it apart was I just wanted to clean where the bulb makes contact with the back of the board there. And in my infinite wisdom, I was also going to get some brake cleaner and clean the contacts between the LCD and there. But looking at it, I think it might be bonded, in which case doing that would be an extremely bad idea. Some of them that I've taken apart before, like the dashboard, the LCD dashboard on the Vauxhall Senators, when I took those apart, the ribbon cable was not bonded to the LCD screen. It was just pushed into contact with it via foam springs in here. So I could take it all apart, put it all back together again and fix it. This one, I'm not going to be able to do that. That's a specialist type of job. So I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. I'm going to clean the contacts of the bulb. The bulb I know works because intermittently it comes on. And then I'm going to put it back together again and then run away before I break something. Put the thing mostly back together. And at the moment we appear to have all the pictures, which is nice. When I say mostly back together, I haven't put the back case on because I'm still fiddling with the bulb. But if I turn it on now, Rover, CD, right here, still missing a cell there. Right, backlighting. No. It's quite annoying because sometimes you can wiggle it and the backlighting comes on. Other times it stays off. It's quite annoying because without having that working, you can't tell what radio station you're on. You can't tune your radio and any of that sort of stuff because that radio does not have a display. Very annoying. Lights on and off. Oh well. We will have to admit temporary defeat on that. I might be able to send it away, I might not. Great thing about COVID and working from home and the fact that I am still allowed to work from home is that when shiny stuff arrives, I can just get on and fit it. A little sense of achievement. I don't have to wait for the weekend or anything. So that's a stainless steel battery clamp from MG Mania, I think it is. They said I'm on eBay. I think it's a tenner, so it's not cheap, but it saves all of the hassle and aggro of shitty, rotten, rusty mild steel ones. So I've coated that with copper slip, so it should come out nice and easy in the future. Well, looky here, this has probably been but moments for you. It's been probably a couple of months since I last worked on this because I broke my collarbone crashing a motorcycle, and annoyingly it wasn't an easy break, it was in 4 pieces, so this arm has been largely out of action. But anyway, less of that, more car stuff. I want to get this for an MOT. It might sit around idling for a while, so it needs fans. Got those fans on there, but nothing to control them. This Rover 820 Vitesse engine, wasted spark, coil pack one, that ECU has the provision to run the cooling fans. So originally this car would have been set up with a sensor. When it got hot enough, the ECU turned the fans on. They're not particularly reliable. That method that's been reported on the 800s and the 620 Ti's not to work brilliantly well. The original Rover 200, I don't know about this 1.8K series one, but the 220 turbos, they're switched on and off by a switch in the radiator, I believe. Anyway, what I'm doing is fitting an aftermarket Revotech kit. What you get is an aluminium tube with the temperature sensor in it. That is going to sit in a rad hose somewhere. There's a little dial on it there, so you can actually adjust what temperature you want the fans to click in and off. That's the relay. So you've got power coming from the battery to the relay, and it's switched by the temperature sensor. It's up to you where you fit that. You can either fit it on the hot side, so hot water coming out of the radiator, out of the thermostat going to the radiator, or on the cold side, which is sensing what goes back to the engine. On this car, the cold side goes straight into that fancy pipe down there, and then part of it is fed from the header tank up there, and the rest of it goes through the pipe work, that stainless steel one down there, through that big upturned bend into the water pump. So I haven't really got the room to put it in there, nor do I have to lean down there to get a screwdriver to adjust the temperature. So I am going to remove this pipe here and fit it in the top, so I've got ease of access to it. Where I might put it there. I could even put it facing down slightly, but somewhere where I can get good access. I might do it that way, because then the wiring points downwards and I can run it along the front and over to the battery. So I need to chop the pipe, fit that in, a couple of Jubilee clips, and then work out what the wiring needs to be. That's clearly an earth for the relay because it's small. The smaller blue one will probably be the sensing one, and the red one will be just power to the relay. Anyway, I'm sure it'll tell me in here what I need to do. I got this off eBay, I think it's about 80 quid. There are cheaper ones out there, but I know this company and I know they're reliable. There we go. So we've got power from the relay to the fans, the big fat blue one. Power to the relay is the big fat red one. Then we have the other ones to the controller and two earths. Note the direction of flow through the controller is not important, so it can go either way around. And then we've got the instructions there, 70 to 120. Cool. Right, so I will get that out, chop it, install that, and then we can do the wiring. I still haven't fixed my GoPro or bought a new one, so still no action shots. I was going to drain the coolant nicely and blah blah blah, all that crap, but I couldn't be bothered, so I just chopped through it with a knife and put the sensor in. This part of the loom comes with a nice over braid, which is kind of cool because that's exactly what I did my wiring loom in, so it all looks kind of matching. That can run along the underside of here where I've got the main loom for the cooling fans and everything. What's quite jammy is that this earth is almost perfectly the right length for there. My relay can go somewhere in and around here. I haven't decided where yet. I might put it on one of those studs down there. I want it protected from the weather if at all possible. And then all I need to do is provide power to it, which hopefully I can run surreptitiously somewhere hidden under here up to the battery. I have noticed there's no actual fuse in this at the moment, so I might run it through the fuse box if I've got somewhere spare for it. I don't know, we'll think about that in a minute. And then all I need to do is terminate the other wires to the fans and make a little loom up for those. The relay is going to go on the back side of that panel there. So I've just drilled a little hole and I've got a button head stainless steel to go through there, so it shouldn't look too rubbish, all hidden, protected from the elements by the bumper and the headlights. That's good. The earth we know will be fine. I have been through my bucket of bits and I cannot find an inline fuse holder, but I'll go down to Halfords or the Motor Factors and I'll buy some sort of fuse holder which can go on that bracket there, and then basically the wiring will run from the relay up under here. I'll try and poke it through that loom, back up through here and then to the relay holder, and then just a short fly lead from here to the other side of the fuse. Sorry, yeah, not relay holder, fuse holder. So all I really need to do now is mount that relay, run the wiring, and then terminate this wire with the blue wires that go to my 2 fans, and then run another wire from these back up to the earth point. So I've got my box of bits, power supply, solder iron, and I'll just get on with it. I was going to solder all this, but I realised there's no point, and in future, if I ever change the fans or need to change the fans, I'd rather have it done with crimps, so they will get insulated over the tops of the joints to try and keep the water out. But for the moment, I'm just going to do it with these. So this will go on there with another connector. Then I'll have my 2 power feeds to the 2 of those. Then I just need to make my earth. Right, that is all terminated and heat shrinked into there with a bit of that overbraid on top. That needs cable tying or securing up in here, and the wires, the fly wires to the fans just off the back of the grills. That tucks under, runs under here. The relay, as I previously had, bolted up under there. Got my 2 earths, one for the relay and one for the fans themselves. And I need to go up and get my fuse holder and a suitable fuse. I haven't worked out what rating these are. I can't remember the wattage of them, but I don't know, probably 20 amp, 30 amp, something like that. Other than that, all good to go. In terms of MOT stuff, the only thing left to do is fit the wheels and tyres. There are loads of things still to do to the car, but nothing else that's, well, going to stop an MOT. So hopefully next time you see a video on this, it'll be running and driving.